from sin, and we have reason to connect it with this topic of guilt. Therefore, in this webinar, let's take a little uh, or let's make a review of how our scriptures touch upon this matter of guilt. So, let me open a few simple slides at this point. Here we are. All right. Are you able to see the first slide?
Yes, Swamiji.
Right. Then I can go ahead. Dealing with guilt is our theme in this webinar. Let's see, to make certain fundamentals very clear, guilt is, after all, a thought, a persistent thought, a painful thought, and you may call it accompanied by feeling. Thought and feeling together have certain tyranny over us. Essentially, it is that recognition on our part, oh, I made a mistake. That's ordinary language. I committed a crime. That's legal language. And in religions, the word I sinned. Sin. Arjuna asked Sri Krishna in the third chapter, why does a man commit sin though he really doesn't want to? Anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojita. Why does papam kurute purushaha? And Sri Krishna says, yes, every human being, though they do not want to do it, end up doing certain wrong things. And that is because of, he uses two words, kama and krodha. And that also is really good light thrown on the genesis of papam and then the guilt following it. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, to which we will again come back later, it is said the jivatmas, that is, individual souls, that is, all of us who have a sense of, I am this person, I'm good in these places, but I'm not good in those places. We go on judging ourselves, right? Knowingly or unknowingly, we carry the burden of how good I am, how bad I am. Even a 3-year-old girl, if she gets a mirror somewhere, would face the mirror and look at herself. Do I look pretty? Do I look nice? And we see sometimes little children making some dancing movements. And if somebody praises them, they are very happy. And if somebody says, stop dancing, and etc., they feel embarrassed. You and I are constantly holding a begging bowl, asking for appreciation, recognition. We want praise, and we do not want criticism. Even if we hear that somebody somewhere spoke ill of us, we lose our sleep that night. Oh, really? Did he talk ill of me? Did she talk negatively about me? And so on. That ill talk might have happened 10,000 miles away. You got to know it through a phone call, let us say. And it had happened a year ago, and you are hearing about it now. But all the same, you feel quite miserable. So, please note, it is of spiritual interest. Our mind is always busy creating an image of our own. And the Upanishads have this task before them to lift us above all self-images. Therefore, Vimala Thakar had written in one of her books about image-free consciousness. That's a mighty challenge before us. So guilt is a thought, and saying so, we cannot brush it aside so easily. Guilt comes from some error that we would have committed. And some saint said long back, to err is human, to forgive is divine. That was the statement in a certain context. But associated with erring, that is committing an error, there are several facets. To not err again is intelligent, but not easy. Generally, we commit the same error, again the same error, and sometimes the same error with greater intensity. Oops, it is so frustrating for every one of us to see, to notice that from almost early childhood, we have been having certain personality traits making us do the same mistake again, and again. So a friend of mine humorously twisted that original quote. The original quote was, to err is human, to forgive is divine. And my friend said, to err is human, to err again is more human. Rama Rama. No, to not err again is the sign of intelligence. You and I, if we have increased spiritual intelligence, I mean, which is marked by Vivek and Vairagya, not some other kinds of intelligence which can help us perform specific tasks better in different fields of human endeavor, but spiritual intelligence. To not err again is intelligent. And even if we learn from our errors, learn and then implement that lesson pretty quickly, that is wise. And on immediate behavioral aspect, if we apologize to somebody towards whom we have erred, if that opportunity comes by, sometimes we do some wrong to somebody and that person is gone, either gone from this world or we don't know where he is or he is not approachable. Then, at least in our mind, can we visualize that lady or that man or that group of people? And in our mind, can we say, we are sorry, we are really sorry, we apologize to you? That is very civil behavior. And then sometimes we do the opposite. We say, no, anybody would have made that mistake in my place. In fact, I have made less mistakes than all my predecessors. In fact, I have been more careful than anybody else. Everyone does this. So what is wrong, etc.? That would be arrogant. That would be egoistic. And then there are some among us who first check whether anybody came to know whether we made some mistake or committed some error or did something sinful. And if we learn that nobody came to know, our energies go into hiding whatever we did. That is insincere. The long hand of divine law will catch us, if not today, after a few days, after a few months, after a few years. And in our Hindu belief, if not in this life, the long hand of karmic law catches us in the next life. But higher spirituality, for which Vedanta is one of the finest representatives, has a great promise. And that promise is you can deal with, on one hand, guilt about what errors took place already at your hands, and on the other, the possibility of your making the mistakes again, etc. On a very deep level, you can go through a basic transformation, a radical transformation, transformation at the root of your being. And to go through such a transformation requires divine grace. So, champions of bhakti, especially like Sri Ramakrishna, who is one of the excellent representatives of Bhakti Marga, said, said he advises us, look, you are like a needle which is very close to a powerful magnet, and that is called the magnet of worldliness. And however much you may try, you get pulled, you get attracted to this worldliness magnet. And once you get into worldliness, many desires that Sri Krishna calls kama, and then lots of different kinds of anger. When we don't have our kama fulfilled, we get angry. Then Sri Krishna calls it krodha. Therefore, when Arjuna asks, why does man commit sin? Sri Krishna says, it is kama, it is krodha. Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhavaha mahashanaha. It eats you up. Mahapapma, it itself is most sinful and it makes you sinful, etc. That's a very thought-provoking material. But now coming back to Sri Ramakrishna, he says, here is the magnet of worldliness, and you are like the little needle. The one way you may save yourself from being pulled towards it by the magnet of worldliness is bring 1,000 times stronger magnet on the other side. When the needle has on the opposite side to where the first magnet was seen, 1,000 times more powerful magnet, then you are safe. You are pulled towards that magnet, and the magnet of worldliness is utterly helpless. And what is that second magnet? Sri Ramakrishna called it God, love of God. And Lord Sri Krishna, who teaches a lot of Jnana Marga, Vedānta, also in the Geetā, has sprinkled a large number of verses in the Bhagavad Gita talking about the Bhakti Marga solution. You see, when we feel guilty, is it a happy feeling? No way. We are in shoka. When we feel guilty about something we did yesterday or something we did 20, 30, 40 years ago, we feel so sad. And every one of you knows the 66th verse, which practically is the last verse, though there are a couple of verses more in the mouth of Sri Krishna, but practically in terms of the body of the teachings that constitutes Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyaha mokshaishyami. I will free you from all sinful tendencies. And it implies Lord will free us from guilt over what we have already done. Sarva aparadhebhyaha, sarva aparadhi manobhavebhyaha. Guilty conscience is put in Sanskrit as aparadhi manobhav. It's a certain sense of, oh, why did I do this and so on? Why did I ever commit that? What a horrible injustice I did to that man, this lady, those children, those adults, that community, this. We feel bad. And Lord Krishna says, Ma Shuchaha, Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshaishyami, Ma Shuchaha. From the second part, chapter onwards, all the way till 18th, there are umpteen places where Sri Krishna talks about a certain transformation. Even the worst duratma, apichet suduratma, suduracharaha, bhajate mam ananya bhav, sadhureva sagantav mantavyaha, samyak vyavasito nisaha, kshipram bhavati dharmatma. He was just a while ago suduracharaha. Durachara itself means a man of bad conduct or a lady of sinful conduct. Suduracharaha, of very bad conduct. But then kshipram bhavati dharmatma. Shashvat Shantim Nigachyate, and she or he can attain great lasting peace. So there is a certain transformation. The alchemist called God can work upon us. Base metal that we are can turn into gold. The alchemy in physics out there may be a false belief. People believed in it for centuries and then said goodbye to it. But this alchemy, where we get transformed from being a base sinner to a very pure hearted saint, is something that people have gone. Arunagirinathar in Tamil Nadu was a sinner who did all sorts of wrong things, felt so guilty, was about to jump from a cliff and commit suicide. Then the saint, exactly in the nick of time, came and dissuaded him and taught him spiritual practices. He later became a great devotee of Muruga, Lord Kartikeya, and Tiruppugal in Tamil is wonderful poetry, devotional creation by Arunagirinathar. He was a totally transformed person. So, to go through transformation is the spiritual side of the thing, and that requires divine grace. We must note now that this whole matter involves a certain vicious circle. Yes, there is a vicious circle. There is a vicious circle in operation from the time we are born till we breathe our last. Generally, unless the divine grace descends upon us, we are going, as this pendulum is shown here, from wrong action, we go to guilt, and that guilt agitates us so much that being agitated, we cannot have clear vision of things. To be objective, to see things as they are, is next to impossible. And therefore, from guilt, which is an agitated mind, we go back to wrong action. And as more wrong actions take place at our hands, we say, oh, I again did this. And next 3 days we are in a bad mood. And then somebody asks for 100 rupees gift. We say, get away from here. I'm suffering here and you disturb me. One more wrong. Or many other things. So we say here, erroneous judgment and wrong action. Somewhere, it shows its head, raises its ugly head. Shankaracharya in the Geetā Bhashya, in the very Avataranika or in the very early portions, I must say, talks about moha. Moha is where there is an erroneous judgment. Something worth $2 seems to us to be $2,000 worth and we want it. And some other place, something which is worth $2,000 is just neglected by us. Somebody is offering this, I don't want it. Why? It's not even $2 worth. That is called moha. Erroneous judgment, wrong action, things, places, people, and other positions, etc., which have no happiness really to give to us, seem to be the source of unending happiness. Therefore, we go after them. Erroneous judgment is where it begins. Then you then go to Another problem. That is our topic this webinar. Because we did wrong things, wrong action, guilt, and an agitated mind. And then, though outwardly we may feel fresh after 2 or 3 days, inwardly there is agitation. Therefore, simple. Again, we judge situations erroneously. Alas, do we not go from one to another? From wrong action to guilt, from guilt to wrong action to guilt, guilt to wrong action. It is like the movement of a pendulum. The pendulum, according to physics, comes to the center, which is equilibrium, but it doesn't stay there. By the time it has come to the center, it has gained certain kinetic energy, it moves to the other extreme. The kinetic energy becomes zero over there, but the potential energy has peaked, then again it comes down. So the pendulum keeps swinging. And those of you who remember some simple basic physics know that if there were to be no friction anywhere in the system, the pendulum will keep swinging from left tip to the right, left extreme to right, etc., endlessly. Thanks to certain friction in the system, it stops. Otherwise, the conversion, because energy cannot be destroyed. Kinetic energy became potential energy. Potential energy then again became kinetic energy. Energy can neither be destroyed nor created is one of the laws that we learned long ago. What we learned in higher classes, nowadays children are learning at fifth standard, sixth standard, etc. So higher classes have higher topics. Anyway, are we not going from confused mind to errors, erroneous action, and that causes guilt? That guilt pollutes our mental atmosphere, and therefore we have more confused mind, if not, worse. Anyway, what is the solution? Bhagavad Gita expresses at many places, but just to mention one or two, says, "Oh dear, there is a state of freedom. You are not opting for it. In your immaturity, you are trying to solve a very complex problem by working only on a superficial level. Go for jnana, go for bhakti, go for yoga. They are all one spiritual science packaged in different ways. So, as Vivekananda said, achieve your spiritual goal, moksha, through karma, or through bhakti, or through yoga, or through jnana, or through a combination of any two, a combination of any three, or through a combination of all four. I believe Sri Aurobindo made some package combining all the four, and that was called, and that is called integral yoga, integrating all of them. All right, but what does Gita say about this spiritual state? Udasinah gatavyataha. You and I have the capacity to go above thoughts because we essentially are not of the nature of thought. This thought, as Ramana Maharshi would say, which begins with the I thought. I am good, I am bad. We keep swinging between these two. And then there are many other thoughts. I am rich, but I want to get richer. And many plans, many schemes. But Udasina, you can sit way above thoughts, staying way above thoughts, and then pointing to a guilt-free state of mind, especially, is the second word in the 12th chapter, the 16th shloka, Gatav Vyatha. You and I would have had Vyatha. Vyatha means some sorrow born of, oh, why did I do this? Why did this happen to me? And so on. Various ways. There was a rich man, I believe, who lost his only son. He was desolate. He was inconsolable. for a couple of years or more. He was so grief stricken. Then, by divine grace, a friend of his took him to an orphanage. Just come with me, the friend said. And he went. And when he went, this businessman who had handled a lot of things in life noticed that that orphanage was in bad shape, badly managed, badly provided for, and his business mind immediately, acted. This can be improved. Children can be fed in a better way. Children can be housed in a better way. They said, we don't have funds. He said, let me give a donation. And then the mind said whether they used the donation properly or not. So after 2 or 3 weeks, he went and saw his friend had taken responsibility and everything was done. And children came running to the businessman. Uncle, uncle, thank you, thank you. He was a bit touched. "Oh, this is nice," he said. Children, don't worry. In fact, I'm going to build 2 more rooms for you. The businessman built some rooms for that orphanage. And another time, children came running to him saying, Uncle, dear uncle, you are God to us or whatever. He felt so amused. Back of his mind, there was such sorrow of losing his own son. But the love that these children started showing towards him did something. He went on visiting that orphanage regularly and he took part. He became party to that managing committee, etc. He moved heaven and earth, maybe God, government grants also, whatever. And over another year or two, Gatavyataha, the thought of having lost his own son completely vanished. Swami Chinmayananji narrated this story on some occasion, and it was so touching. What happened? You were so grief stricken. Yes, I was like that. But these children have given me a new life. He cried in joy. There were tears of joy in that businessman's eyes, for he became Gatavyata. Because he did not do all that out of any selfish motive. Knowingly or unknowingly, he served those children in the orphanage as an offering to God. Ishwararpitam Nechaya Kritam. As I said, all the way till the 18th chapter. In 18th chapter, there is the description of someone who gets closer to realization. Even as someone is closer to the ultimate enlightenment, one expression is na shochati, na kangshati. No remorse over past. Generally, we see such things from a narrow angle. We are sad that somebody was unkind to us. We sad that we did not get some position. And we think of getting over that sorrow. But the sorrow of I behaved in a very meaningless manner, in a brutal way, I did something very wrongly, is deeper. The sorrow of not getting a chair, sorrow of not getting the hand of the man or woman whom someone wanted to marry, the sorrow of not getting material things, etc. That's easy to remove. The sorrow of I have been a characterless person. I have been a very insensitive person. I have been such a selfish person. I have been, whoa, such a bad guy or a bad woman is very deep. But Sri Krishna means that also in what when he says Nashocha. Yes, I was so brutal. I was a brute. So many stories of transformation. Valmiki killed many people. In more recent times, Angulimala, Buddha's time, had killed thousands of people, and for everybody whom he killed, he took a finger, made a garland of it. Therefore, his name became Angulimala. But deeply touched by spirituality from the Buddha, Angulimala became of the saint. And we have reason to believe that he was able to let go of all his shoka. Shuch is the verb, shoka is the noun. Na kankshati, no dreams on future also, or about one's future. That is, both these happen at one go. Sorrow about what happened in our life up till this day, and dreams of what should happen in future are like the two sides of the same coin. To throw the coin into a pond, you can't say, I'll throw one side today and another side probably next Wednesday. No, it's, that's how the idiom came, right? Like the two sides of the same coin. Shoka about things bygone and kanksha about things that should happen together vanish. Then last slide, but we will have a few comments beyond the slides also. Maharshi Ramana, talking about liberation, says, it is not through mere practices, techniques, or service to humanity, service to all forms of life. There's an expression, reverence for all life. Reverence for all life is inclusive of kindness towards animals, birds, plants, whatever has life. So vegetarianism is one aspect of that movement, reverence for all life. In Sadhu Vaswani mission, the founder T.L. Vaswani himself, who was very deeply touched by the cause of vegetarianism, and he was horrified at the cruelty to animals, and therefore today also some Sindhi organizations, even though many of them may be meat eaters, there is some day in the year, and on that day in the year it is the day of reverence for all life. So I went a little far. We may do a lot of so-called noble deeds. Today people are serving the cause of caring for environment, caring for animals, caring for trees, plants, caring for nature like environment. So there are many things. If you and I can care better for the 4 or 5 people who are under the same roof in our house, if we can care better for our little neighborhood or little team in our organization, that can be a great beginning. That actually may be enough also. Don't think of going far and helping somebody in the Himalayas. Begin with your own home. Charity begins at home. But the Vedanta perspective is all of that gives us certain chitta shuddhi. But if we want to root out guilt, if we want to completely eliminate, that is called moksha. And in Ramana Geetā, in the very first chapter, answering a certain question by Vasishtha Ganapati Muni, Maharshi Ramana says, Mochayet sakalan bandhan atmanishta eva. Mochayet sakalan bandhan atmanishta eva kevalam is a punchline. And what this atmanishta is under the sun. Atmanishta is you are worried about wrongs that you did and the prospect of same kind of wrongs or worse that you may do, etc. Vedanta says behind the deed there is a doer. Your thinking of yourself as a doer is the fundamental misconception. Let go of doership. Let go of enjoyership, kartrutva, bhoktrutva. When you let go of kartrutva and bhoktrutva, you won't vanish. You don't become void. You don't become shunya. You remain as the Atma. Mochayet sakalan bandhan atmanishtaiva kevalam. And the rishis of Upanishads declare in Taittiriya, what do they say? towards the end of Brahmananda Valli, we have Etagam Havavana Tapati, Kimahagam Sadhuna Karavam, Kimaham Papamakaravamiti, Saya Evam Vidvanete Atmanaggas Pranute, Ubehe Vaisha Ete Atmanaggas Pranute, etc. That is the last. Ityupanishadu, Om Shanti, etc. follows after that. The gist of this is ordinarily and universally in Africa and America and Australia and Japan, in India, of course, everywhere, all humanity generally carry the burden of sadhu nakaravam. That means good things na akaravam. I did not do. I did not take care of my mother or father. I did not pay the dues to workers in my factory. I deceived them. I did not behave in a really good way towards my own spouse. I was secretly selfish, though she found out on a few occasions. But by and large, I was clever in some way or the other. You and I, sadhu na akaravam. I did not do what should have been done. And Upanishad words talk about Kimaham papam akaravam. And I did what should not have been done. Did not do what should have been done and did what should not have been done. These are what was referred to in an earlier slide as errors of omission and commission. But the best part is that mantra says, Brahmanandavalli, of talking about deeper and deeper discovery of who we are, starting with Annamayatma, then you reject it. Pranamayatma, Manomayatma, Vijnanamayatma, Anandamayatma. You arrive at the pure Atma. You had misconceptions. You thought you are the physical body, Annamayatma. And some people who spend a lot of time, money, and energy in fitness, they think of themselves as a pranic body. That is prana, energy. So they do some exercises, they teach something, and some workshop they attend, right food, this, that. They feel, I feel so energetic nowadays. I need less sleep, which is good, but they are unable to see beyond that. So Taittiriya Upanishad as though holds our hand and guides us from physical to energy to mental to intellectual to bliss, and then the pure bliss, true bliss. So the gist of it is Saya evam vidvan, ete is dual number, that is punya and papa. Or in this context, it is not punya and papa, it is two kinds of papa. Papa of not doing the right thing and papa of doing the wrong thing. The sins of commission and omission. Ete, because etat, ete, etani. Etat is single, ete is dual. Ete Dviprakare pape, papam pape papani. Dviprakare pape, do one thing, rise above thought created individuality. And when you stay as the pure self, you find that these sins of two kinds are actually a mere appearance. Like the snake is a mere appearance, if you carefully observe, the snake is nothing but the rope only. Sarpaha rajjuhu eva. Like that, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I failed to do this right thing, I did not do that right thing. This, that. They are all waverings of a spiritually ignorant mind. You are the pure I. Atma eva asti sarvamanya mithya. That's why ete atmanam spranute. Atmanishta enables you to remain as the quiet awareness principle, which in no way means you live then shamelessly doing anything that you like and saying, I am not the doer. It won't work. When you truly realize how you are not the doer, deep transformation takes place. Upanishad says, the first line I did not explain, Etam na tapati. And that is translated at the bottom, guilt does not trouble him. Aparadi manobhavaha etam purusham etam striyam va na tapati. No tapa is created, no agitations, for one comes to terms with one's life. All that happened for certain reasons. I am no more identified with them, nor I am trying to hide it. If need be, I will let the whole world know the wrongs that I had done. That's called coming to terms with. No hiding, no, concealing anything. But that doesn't mean you have to, take a drum, beat the drum and tell the whole town about some wrong that happened at your hands. Therefore, I added the phrase, if need be. Honestly, you are actually at peace with your life. Not just the life that is the now, the life that was, whatever way it was, life that is, and life that will be. You are at peace with the entirety of your life only when you know you are the pure self. It's like you are completely at peace with your dream, where part of the dream you are a noble person, part of the dream you killed people, slapped people, robbed people, etc. It was a mixed bag. And then you woke up. It may take a few minutes for you to reconcile. Then you smile. Huh, the whole thing was a dream. In that way, you are empowered. Therefore, guilt has, broadly speaking, solutions on two levels. One is dharma. In your overexcitement with Vedanta, for heaven's sake, do not neglect dharma. There is a famous line in the Vedas, tapasa kalmasham hanti. So your anushtanas, your yoga, your pranayama, your paropakara, keep up, keep them up, keep doing good things, because that is tapas. Tapasa kalmasham hanti, right? And then please know, Sri Krishna himself has said, Yogo bhavati dukkha. Be into yoga, Raja Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Yatha Shakti, nobody is asking you to compete with another seeker. That seeker has her own background, you have your own background. That seeker has her strengths and shortcomings, and you have your strengths and shortcomings. So don't compare with somebody else. If you get up at 5:30 and somebody gets up at 4:30, don't allow a thought of, oh, she gets up at 4:30, she is advanced. She may be having other kinds of problems. But on your own, try to be more regular. Tapasa kalmasham hanti, yogo bhavati dukkha, and so on. So I would not say go for Vedanta right away. If ground reality is most people do not have that capacity yet, nor do they have good, right, competent teachers, nor do they have the right material presented properly before them. You just pick up a book of Upanishad and then something you read and you get sleep. That is what happens to many people. Therefore, a lot of things have to fall in place before you can go on board the plane of Vedanta and keep flying. Till then, you have to do karma yoga. You have to live in more and more right way, right ways, right living, right living. If there is something which is not right in the way you live, privately, nobody is watching, or publicly, people are telling you, don't do this. You are harsh, you are short-tempered, you are angry, or you blame somebody, endlessly. Though the other person says, you have said it enough, now stop. No, I will not stop. What happened in 1987 was all because of you. Rama Rama, 1987 to 2023, but still you go after that person. What you did in 1987 has completely ruined my life and so on. Suppose you have been doing such silly thing, rather than forgetting, you hang on to. No, that is also tapas. Let go of that. That is tapas. That is sadhana. So, the values that Gita teaches, abhayam, sattva samshuddhir, jnana yoga vyavastitihi, or another place, amanitvam, adambitvam, or at many other places. What is that? Karyam karma samachara. Be devoted to your duty. Do not make a big issue of whether you are adequately recognized or not. Hopefully, it will happen, but don't waste your energy and so on. So, there are a whole lot of advice on right living these days, thanks to Google, thanks to so much of media. We have things coming towards us on WhatsApp messages. Some of them may not be correct, but you have to choose. But right eating, right ways of resting, right ways of communication, dealing with people. So on psychological front, on physical front, we get advice. So can we select a few, and say this is what how I should do, and not from 2024, from tonight itself, this evening itself. Then that is one way our guilt, shame, etc. will slowly get weaker. Because guilt and shame thrive in a disorderly living. In orderly living, guilt and shame are as though starved. They are starved. Nobody is watering the plant of guilt and shame. They die. In this way, one level. And then, even as you gather more sattvic energy through right living, the same Vedanta, which earlier was interesting but did not deliver the goods, will begin to work for you. It will work wonders. Ultimately, it is the Atmanishtha. Harihi Om. Om Tat Sat. Let's see if there are some questions.
Swamiji,
Yes.
I don't know if you remember me. I'm from Nashville. I was a psychiatrist. You might remember Vedavyas.
Of course, how can I forget? And of late, we again reconnected through
Yes,
the association of that ashram, Hamsa Ashrama.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my lighting is not good, but this topic was very appealing for me, and
Really?
therefore I joined you. And because I'm in the field of helping people.
Oh, I forgot you are in psychiatry, huh?
Yes.
Oh, that is, of course, you will have volumes to share with all of us in this matter.
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify
Correct.
one thing. Now,
Please do.
we believe people who feel guilt are better people than the people who don't feel guilt.
Right. I see the point, yeah.
And we want people to cultivate some sense of guilt of wrongdoing so that they will be motivated to do the right thing.
Correct.
And we believe
Yeah.
the guilt-motivated people are nicer people than greed-motivated people.
Yeah, so I think true, yeah. Go on, yeah.
And to practice some level of humility.
Yes.
Or reminding ourselves of our own imperfection is important for spiritual growth.
Very well said.
Therefore, we don't want to eliminate guilt. We want to maintain some sense of accountability. Right. But the only question comes with these errors of omission. we can always take responsibility for errors of commission,
Hmm.
but when it comes to errors of omission,
Hmm.
we have to surrender, and we have to rededicate. We have to allow God to do His job.
Hmm. Hmm. Well said. Yeah.
Then the question for you is this whole idea of forgiving yourself too quickly
Correct.
and not forgiving others could be a source of problem for narcissists.
One becomes a narcissist. Did you say narcissism? You referred to narcissism.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, right.
by,
Too much of
by
self-love. I'm okay.
yeah.
I'm fine. I'm totally okay. That can be bad. Yeah.
Because one of some of our practices will help us forgive ourselves very quickly if you just kind of quickly put it all on God, blame God for everything, and don't take responsibility for yourself. It becomes a problem. And there are some people who are very good at that. It's like they quickly blame God and don't take any responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
Therefore, I wanted you to know what is your deterrence for those tendencies that some of us may have in terms of forgiving ourselves too early.
Beautiful. So I personally do not see any conflict between what you said and the thrust of the talk. Only thing is you are talking about a certain level, and I thought of went to a higher level right away. So I will ensure, thank you for these inputs. I'll ensure that in any other presentation on this, I'll do justice to that part. In fact, I did say one or two sentences that we don't mean to become irresponsible. Also, I said one should be open enough to admit, yes, I made that mistake, etc. But that was not enough. What you said is that accountability, taking responsibility, etc., have to precede the so-called transcendence, etc. So-called, yeah, very well said. Yeah. Thank you.
One other curiosity that I have,
Yeah.
these people who are sinners who are becoming saints, the deeper is the sin they were in, the higher is the sainthood they achieve.
Okay.
It's ironic. It seems like it's like one has to reach the bottom before he really gets saved to a higher level.
Go to the bottom, then bounce back.
Yeah. What do you think about that? A lot of people think, there's a lot of people here, we have drug addicts who thinks that they can keep on indulging, and someday they will open up and they will change.
Yeah.
But they never change. They die. And I feel like that kind of pursuit of pursuing the depths of sin, thinking that you'll be saved someday, I feel like it's the wrong sided or wrong thinking.
Right. In fact, what you say is in the direction of a lot of spiritual teachings which are more misused in this world than rightly taken, So they go into another hallucination. Earlier, they were hallucinated by the worldly things. Then spiritual concepts can also, give them a false sense of, In fact, there are people maybe in America and everywhere who are in such a hurry to write a book about their transformation without without being sure whether they really have changed. My story of transformation, and then it sells very well, and then their job is done. One morning they find out that I'm worse than before, actually. Yeah, there are a lot of trappings everywhere. But what you said was so valuable, how that early phase, one has to take responsibility. One has to, then you said bluntly, those who are guilty are many times better people because they constantly remember that I have done harm to these people. I should now give it back. I should help them. I should. Whereas prematurely or in some shortcut, if somebody gets free from guilt, she or he may not do anything for anybody. So
Thank
beautiful. I got your point very well. I'll try to articulate in my own way, maybe in the presentation or in the write-up. Thank you so much for that.
you.
Ranjan Desai has something to say. Please go on.
Yes, Swamiji, this good morning. I'm sorry I joined a little late, but I'm going to watch your program for sure. I was doing something, and I wanted to just add to whatever the earlier talker person has told, and I really agree with him. I mean, I was in search of what Kundalini Yoga was, and I found out that some people are misusing that, and they're giving drugs to make sure that it's the only way that they can go through that, it seems to. So it was very disturbing to me, and how these things are being misused by saints.
Yeah, true. Like we talked of trappings, you are talking of forms of misuse.
Right. And
drugs
so this is
other
what
things.
Yeah. And so it seems that the practice is very difficult to do, and then it's not that they can just take the drugs to get that kind of the feeling of that level, right? So it's really wrong, and I totally agree with the earlier person.
True. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe a last question or comment for the morning in the west, evening in the east. Dr. Villiar want to say something more, or Dr. Sonpal has something to say?
Other people can go.
Swamiji, sometimes people take drugs to numb their feelings, and then they get into the cycle, and the same way the guilt and shame, they get into the cycle, and then when they don't break the cycle, they don't make changes, and without making changes, they're not going to be able to move forward.
We couldn't hear you very well. There was some distortion of voice, I guess.
What I was saying is that sometimes people take drugs to numb themselves and the feelings that they are feeling. They don't want to feel them.
Oh, really? Drugs help us know our own feelings better than otherwise?
No, they numb them. N-U-M-B, numb.
They are in love with drugs?
No.
I didn't hear.
Okay, I will just put it in chat.
Okay, that may be better. Yeah. Sometimes there is some vibration and we don't get the word properly. Yeah, meanwhile, Dr. Villiar may speak.
One last comment. I know the time is up. This finding forgiveness, it's like we are always looking for forgiveness. We want that complete forgiveness, that relief from guilt. And we strive very, very hard. But I feel like the capacity to get God's forgiveness depends on how much you have earned God's, good favor, or how much work you have worked in God's name. So I feel like the proportion, if you want more forgiveness, you have to work harder to earn his forgiveness. That is a psychological tendency. And I feel like it's more like, trained by our parents or from the system or whatever, the whole idea of proportionate punishment for the crime that you have done. But it's very difficult to apply that when it comes to God, because God can forgive you sometimes instantly, but he may never forgive you for the whole of your life.
Yeah, no one can say.
How do we manage this unpredictability about God's forgiveness?
Yes. So the devotional literature has sung a lot of praise of God, how extremely kind he is, Karuna Sagara, Karuna Nidhi, and so on. But at the same time, the ground reality is there are people on whom God's grace doesn't seem to be coming down, descending. And generally in Hinduism, we say the karma is complex. The karma is, a very complex matter. So if someone has received God's grace so quickly and somebody else has been waiting for ages, the faith of ours is there must be some factors God is not doing anything at random. He's not a whimsical power up there. But there must be some, and let's not lose faith. Let's pray God. If you feel so much for somebody who has not been lifted yet, make a special prayer for him. God, delay my liberation for one more life. But this guy has been suffering so much. Set him free. So that's what we could do. It's very complex, and it has to be complex because this is such a subtle matter. Right? Just as in our sciences also, deeper we go, everything becomes so nebulous. You know, some time back there was that theory. What was that in the deeper physics? String theory. And then they said the string theory is much debated also, disputed also. So as we go to atomic, subatomic, and then further down, energy, matter, duality, etc. You know, at our time also we were told on deeper level it is electron position, for example. You can only talk in terms of probability. You know, there's a high probability of the energy being here, but nothing is certain, etc. So just as I don't want to drag that science issue, advanced topics in science are highly, you know, debated upon. Here too, karma is, though it's very popular, everybody talks of karma, but karma really is a very, very profound topic. It has to be so. Factors are too many involved in that. So maybe Dr. C. Paul has written by now. Let me see. Okay, yes, she's. Yeah. Dr. Paul says sometimes people use drugs to numb their feelings of pain and suffering. Then they get in the cycle that you had mentioned. The same regarding guilt and shame. Need to break the cycle, otherwise, we'll keep repeating the same mistakes and errors. There is a book titled Guilt, Go to Hell. I do not remember the name of the author. I'm sure many participants will be looking up Google after this session. Guilt, go to hell, you know. That's true. And there are jokes also. One padri, I believe, in a church said to a parishioner, son, you will go to hell. And the member said, no problem, father, we will meet there also. So like that there are jokes also on guilt and shame. Thank you. That's a very wonderful comment. Ranjan Desai says acceptance of guilt and taking responsibility is the first step in redemption. Yeah, true. But much can be said about that also. When you accept your guilt, what if you become, so sorrowful and then you can't handle yourself properly? So probably there is a place for some amount of suppression just to get going. So, because the sense of guilt can overwhelm you also. There is one more. That is Ranjan Desai's. Yeah, there are no other comments, and I guess time is also up. If somebody wants to ask a last chance, there's an option for you to raise your hand. I guess you know that, right? Otherwise, just turn your mic on and just say it, no problem. Then we'll conclude. Right. I'm glad it elicited a lot of interest. People have responded. Looks like for such psychological topics, there is more, receptivity. We'll continue to touch upon such topics. I guess 2 weeks from now, we have some webinar planned on gratitude. All these are interconnected, you see. Okay, so thank you and namaste, Hari Om. Hari Om.